Hi, this is Gabe from FluentForever.com. In this second video, we're going to talk about Spanish's vowels. My primary goal here is to get you familiar with the IPA symbols for those vowels, and to give you a rough sense of how they fit in your mouth. Keep in mind throughout this process that the better you learn to hear these vowels, the better you'll be able to keep track of which one is which, and the better you'll produce them. We're going to be talking a bit about tongue placement, so to give you a rough sense of that, try this. Compare E, and a in English, as in seat, set, and sat. You'll notice your tongue starts up high. E goes to the middle of your mouth, and then goes down to a. So your tongue can go up and down. E, a. It can also go forward and back. Compare as in bet and as in but. Your tongue goes forward for and pulls back for bet, but. Now, if you'd like a much more in-depth discussion about vowel formation, check out some of the videos linked below. But for the beginning, it's about all you're going to need. So let's get to some Spanish. As before, I have Christina here to help me with this.
Hello.
So, on some levels, Spanish is extremely simple when it comes to vowels. Depending upon how you count, English has 11 or 12 vowels, and Spanish has just 5. A, I, O, and U. Not only that, but you already know their IPA symbols. They're just lowercase a, e, I, o, and u. So our challenge here isn't memorization, really. It's figuring out how to pronounce each of these vowels accurately. We're going to start with the easiest two, E and U.
E shows up in Spanish as imán and English as sí.
It's basically the same in both languages, unless your dialect of English actually uses two vowels when you say E. If you say sí or soy, you'll need to get rid of that first vowel and stick to the second. Sí.
U shows up in Spanish as uva, moose, and English as moose.
Again, this vowel is pretty much the same in both languages, but as we just mentioned with E, some dialects of English will use two vowels here. Moose, where Spanish consistently will use just one pure U. Moose.
The next vowel we'll cover is E, as in escudo or mes.
Here's where we'll take advantage of our earlier discussion about vowel height. Remember how E was high up in your mouth and E was in the middle of your mouth? Well, Spanish's E tends to be in between these two.
So English has mes and Spanish has mes.
I say that this vowel tends to be between E and E because you will sometimes hear an E that is practically the same as English's E. That's something that happens quite a bit in languages with as few vowels as Spanish. You get a lot more flexibility with what sorts of vowels show up in native speakers' mouths. For our purposes now, though, it's handy to learn the vowel you'll encounter most often, which is this new E sound.
Next we have O, as in oso or bon.
This vowel is very similar to American English's O, as in bone. The issue with the vowel in bone is that it's actually two vowels. You start at O, which is where you want to be, but then you go to O.
Spanish stays put. We say bon. And now we come to the last of the Spanish vowels, A, as in arpa.
This one is really fascinating. Now, for most other languages, I try to explain A as a vowel that is halfway between A, as in mock, and A as in Mac. And this does work as a way of explaining the vowel. But for Spanish, the tongue position of A actually lines up almost perfectly with the tongue position of English's as in bus.
But that's pretty weird. Spanish's A as in bus doesn't actually sound the same as as in bus. So what's going on here?
Vowels are basically a combination of two things, what's going on with your tongue and what's going on with your lips. For most languages, we care about whether your lips are rounding into a circle or not. That's what turns French's I into U, for instance. But for this vowel in Spanish, we're doing the opposite. We need to spread our lips out.
Where as in bus has totally neutral lips, A as in bus has totally spread out lips. Bus, bus.
And those are the 5 vowels of Spanish. The only thing left to discuss are the combinations of two vowels, otherwise known as diphthongs. English is full of these. Of our so-called 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, and U, 3 of them, A, I, and O are actually diphthongs. They're not single vowels at all. In American English, at least, we go A, I, and O. Now, Spanish has diphthongs too, and we'll go over them now. But as a quick aside, notice the little semicircles under the second vowel letter in these English diphthongs. That symbol doesn't change the vowel at all. It's there just to tell you that the extra vowel isn't an extra syllable. So you're saying A, I, and O, 3 syllables, and not E, A, E, and O, U. So, returning to Spanish. Spanish has a lot of diphthongs. They combine their 5 vowels in almost every way possible. But the rules governing them are relatively straightforward. Basically, you pronounce all the vowels as cleanly and clearly as possible. And the only trick is figuring out if one of those vowels goes by faster than the others. To figure that out, you can divide Spanish's vowels into strong and weak vowels. The strong ones are A, E, and O, and the weak ones are U and I. When you combine a strong and a weak vowel, the strong vowel takes over the syllable. It's longer, and the weak one becomes short, fast, and almost like a consonant. So if I want to combine A, a strong vowel, and I, a weak vowel, I get either I or ya. In both cases, the A is the longest part, and the I is really fast.
The strong and weak combinations are ya, familia, ye, bien, yo, Dios, ay, seis, hoy, estoy, wa, agua, we, bueno, wo, cuota, au, autor, eu, Europa.
You can also combine the 2 weak vowels.
That gives you triunfo, oui, Luis.
In these cases, the second of the vowels acts as the longer, stronger vowel.
It's triunfo and not triunfo.
You can combine 2 strong vowels also, which will give you 2 different syllables instead of 1 syllable.
So instead of something like paella, you get paella, where pa, e, and ya are 3 different syllables.
Or alternatively, if you stick an accent mark on a weak vowel, you can accomplish the same thing.
Día, país, baúl.
As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of possible combinations here. But the most important thing to note is that in every single combination, whether a long, strong vowel or a weak, short I or U, all of these vowels still sound like A, E, I, O, or U, which is generally not what we do in English. In English, we have a tendency to be much more relaxed with our vowels.
We don't say I, we say I.
Where the second sound in English is I rather than I.
We don't say meow, we say meow.
The second sound there in English is not U.
So if you want a good Spanish accent, make every vowel perfectly clear. A, E, I, O, U, even in diphthongs.
And that's it for Spanish vowels. To quickly review, we have 5 basic vowels.
I as in imán, U as in uva,
which are both extremely similar to their English equivalents.
E as in escudo,
which is usually somewhere between English's E and I.
O as in oso,
which is similar to our first vowel in O as in bone. You just stay on that beginning O part. Bo-o-o-o-own.
And A as in arpa,
which is basically English's A vowel with spread out lips. A. And then come all sorts of combinations, where the most important things to remember are to pronounce each vowel clearly and completely.
A, E, I, O, U.
Make the weak vowels, I and U, shorter when they show up with strong vowels.
Ya, ay, wa, au.
And if you have 2 strong vowels or a weak vowel with an accent sign, pronounce both vowels as 2 syllables.
Paella, baúl.
And with that, we've covered all the sounds of Spanish. Next stop, a few Spanish spelling rules.